ask people to make sure that they use their mic and then turn it off. Welcome. I was doing a demonstration. Thank you. You're very kind. Welcome to the Harrogate and Knaresborough Area Committee meeting. There are no fire alarms planned, and the meeting is being live streamed and will be available to view on the Council's website. Please use your microphones and switch off once finished. We have apologies for absence from Councillor Gibbs, which is noted and pre-advised. The minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of September. Does anybody have any amendments to the minutes? No? Okay. So we can agree, and I will sign at the appropriate moment. Proposer and seconder for the minutes. Thank you, Mike Schofield, proposing. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Walker. Matters arising from the minutes will be dealt with under the committee work programme as progress on issues raised. So, are there any declarations of interest on items of the agenda today? None today, thank you. We have 4 statements that will be read out. However, they relate to item 6 on the agenda, so with agreement from those participating, we'll take those statements at the start of item 6 so we can move to item 5, the air quality management update. Thank you to Dr. Kevin Carr and Emily Revell, who are present with us, and I believe you have a presentation for us.
Morning, everyone. Thank you. My name is Kevin Carr. I'm Divisional Officer, that's essentially a manager of the scientific team. What we do is we deal with air quality, contaminated land and industrial permitting. It's a function that used to sit with the former district and borough councils, and now we're part of the general wider environmental health teams, which sit with regulatory services along with our colleagues in trading standards. So I was at the Transport, Environment and Economy Committee a few weeks ago and did this presentation. So if anyone was at that, I do apologise if I'm repeating myself. But just thought I was asked to come along today just to really go through this again with you, just to give you an overview of the sorts of things that we do. This came to light because we've recently submitted a report to DEFRA, which we're obliged to do every year, which is our annual status report, which summarises all the monitoring that we do within the county for air quality and the general state of affairs. So it was really, this presentation is to give you a rough background on what all this is all about. So you should have had it in the pack. If you understand it, please explain it to me. But I'll have another go now, right? Yeah. Right. The annual status report is part of local air quality management. Now, this is basically a thing that's imposed on us by DEFRA. I'm saying imposed. We do it willingly. But it's basically DEFRA have created a structure as to how all local authorities deal with air quality within their areas. So the local air quality management process places an obligation on all local authorities to regularly review and assess air quality in their areas, and to determine whether or not the air quality objectives are likely to be achieved. The methodology of how you do this and the air quality objectives are dictated by DEFRA itself. That's it. Here we are. Objectives contained in the UK Air Quality Strategy implemented by the Air Quality. Here we get the legislation. Started off years and years ago. We looked at I think there was about 8 or 9 different pollutants, wasn't there, that we had to assess all our different areas for. And over the years, looking at different sources for North Yorkshire, we've whittled those down to 2 that are of major concern to us. There's nitrogen dioxide, which is largely from transport emissions. And there's also particulate matter, which tends to come from domestic solid fuel burning. Back in the day, it used to be measured as what they called smoke, and there was some very wee and wonderful ways of doing that, but now we have more up-to-date monitors which measure particulate matter in terms of the size of the particles. PM10 and PM2.5 basically means particulate matter less than whatever that number is in microns. So PM2.5 can be a subsection of PM10. It's the smaller particles within that group. PM10, they're the particles of particular concern because they get into your lungs. PM2.5 can actually enter the bloodstream, and if there's any heavy metals or anything associated with those particles, they can deposit in major organs around the body. How do we measure nitrogen dioxide? Well, if the keen-sighted amongst you may, on occasions, have walked past a lamppost with one of these things stuck on it. This is a diffusion tube. It works by having one end is covered and the other end is open. The open end should be at the bottom, although some jolly japesters do occasionally turn them upside down and we find them full of rainwater. But basically, at the top, there's a gauze which is dosed with a chemical which, over the period of a month, nitrogen dioxide from whatever source diffuses into the tube, reacts with the chemical on the gauze. We come and collect it, gets sent off to a laboratory and analysed, and then we get the results back. So we get 12 sets of results back a year, and they give us an indication as to what the monthly average is. We then convert that into an annual average, and that's the figure we report to DEFRA. The locations, again, we follow guidance issued by DEFRA as to what the best places to put these things. We don't just stick them anywhere we want. They have to meet certain criteria, usually to do with how busy junctions are, how close to the road receptors are. We're basically measuring on behalf of the nearest receptor, which tends to be a resident. Particulate matter, we've just started measuring this across various locations in the county because we got some money probably a year or so ago, and we have 9. We had 3 ex-Harrogate Borough Council monitors, and we bought 6 brand new, swanky new ones, which we've got scattered around. We're still waiting for the one to be put up in Starbeck, I'm afraid, Councillor Haslam. But others are in places such as Whitby and Malton, which proved quite critical during the recent wildfire episode over that way, and it was one of the few data sources that the council had to work out what people are exposed to because of that. So I think they've proved their worth already. Right, back to the air quality report. So if we think on diffusion tubes at the moment. So again, DEFRA set objective levels that we aim for. If you exceed those levels in a particular area, then we're obliged to declare what is called an air quality management area. What does that mean? Well, it basically means that it's an area of concern, you're breaching legal limits, and therefore the council has to come up with an air quality action plan with measures put in place to state how you intend to deal with it and get those levels back down to legal limits. These are UK statutory levels that we're talking about here, not the World Health Organization guidelines, which is something different. Yeah. So when we all came together at LGR, we all had 7 different reports, etc. So the first job was to try and get everything all put into one common format, which was a bit of a job in itself. DEFRA very kindly gave us a very tight deadline on this, but we did it. I'm happy to say. So last year was our first annual status report, and we also completed our air quality action plan for North Yorkshire as well to deal with the air quality management areas that we had. And we had 8 at the beginning at LGR. There's a list there. Now, because of improvements over the years and reviewing the data, if you have 5 years of compliant data, 5 consecutive years of compliant data, you're obliged by DEFRA's rules to revoke those air quality management areas. So Bedale, Malton, High-Low, Skelgate and Ripon, York Place, Knaresborough were all revoked based on the evidence available. And this year, we've just heard from DEFRA within the last few weeks that our annual status report has been accepted, and we propose to revoke Wetherby Road in Harrogate, and as soon as I get round to it. So that's a good piece of news, because it demonstrates really that air quality in North Yorkshire is improving. It's not perfect, but it's improving, which is a good sign. And Bond End, Knaresborough, looking at the data, we're hopeful that perhaps next year we'll be in a position to revoke that air quality management area as well, which, if you live in this part of the world, is pretty much a good news story. That leaves us with Selby. It's a bit of some issues there. It's the A19 on New Street. It goes through what we call a street canyon, where the houses are quite narrow, where the street is quite narrow, and the pollutant levels tend to be trapped there. And Staithes, which was declared by Scarborough Borough Council a lot of years ago, where there's issues with domestic solid fuel burning. So we've got one of our monitors in Staithes now, which is measuring the particulate matter for that. You've got your packs. There's some maps here which shows the air quality management areas in Bond End, Wetherby Road, Selby. Yeah. Have I missed anything? Oh, no, that's it. Yeah. So what do we do? Again, I've mentioned the Air Quality Action Plan, where the environmental health team, the scientific team, really what we do is we produce the reports, but we don't really have a lot of influence, or we don't have a lot of power really to actually do anything tangible about the issues that are caused. Mainly the transport related in the likes of Selby. So we've created an air quality steering group with partners such as public health, trading standards, highways, climate change. Who else? Can't remember. There's lots of them. We're all very friendly and talk to each other now, which is really good. And one of the advantages of LGR means that we're all under the same roof now, which is really helpful. There's a regeneration project being proposed for Selby, which we've had input into, which basically means that we can comment on the air quality implications of whatever it is they want to do. So the hope is there with Selby, there'll be some tangible changes done, and they can take whatever they do with rerouting traffic, etc. It could have hopefully a positive effect on air quality and help us get those pollution levels below what they need to be to meet the UK standards. Staithes, again, we've done some digging, and a lot of the properties where the problem was with domestic solid fuel burning, a housing association, and they've turned a lot of their housing stock from coal to gas. So we're hopeful that that in itself will have been enough to solve that problem, but there's no evidence at the moment. So we have to have a monitor up there to demonstrate that that is the case. Unfortunately, what tends to happen as well, with it being on the coast, you get a lot of sea salt interferes with the data, and it's difficult to strip that out, but we'll see how things work. And Bond End, again, the tangible effect there was about 5-6 years ago now. I think that the junction was changed there from traffic lights to roundabouts. That's improved traffic flows, and that's had a tremendous effect on helping with the air quality in that area. Present and future air quality work. Well, we have to do an annual report, which I've mentioned, and we will be updating our air quality action plan to reflect the fact that we'll be revoking Wetherby Road, and also include some data which I've just talked about in the previous slide. We're working with our colleagues in the Air Quality Steering Group to produce a council-wide air quality strategy, which is due by March 2027. Now, our hope there, and similar with climate change, air quality, climate change, there's quite a few overlaps, but there are certain things which are not the same. If you remember when one of the previous governments encouraged everyone to buy diesel cars because they produce less carbon dioxide, that's true, but they also produce more smoke. So you have a bit of a paradox there between it's good for climate change, bad for air quality. And there were problems in town and city centres as a result of the increase in diesel vehicles. So it's important that we talk to each other and talk to other departments as to what their plans are and have some sort of input with regard to aspects of air quality which could be impacted on that. We've also talking of which we've had input into the local plan, which is in development at the moment for the same reasons. That shouldn't say primary authority, that should say combined authority. So apologies for that. So again, the transport links within that, we've got a foot in the door where we can extend our influence hopefully with that. And also community work. We've been working with local schools around the county, and there's a campaign called Clean Air Day, which is in June every year, and we encourage kids to get involved with that, producing posters, etc. And again, raising awareness around the school for parents who want to drop their kids off, leave their cars idling, etc. Bring some awareness from the kids. Use the power of pest to power, so they can take that home with them. What else have we got? Again, there's not just nitrogen dioxide. There's new legislation come in regarding PM2.5, which I've mentioned as the really small particles. And the government want, the government want us to, or we are obliged to assist the government in getting levels of PM2.5 down to about 10 microns per metre cubed across England by 2040. And there's also a population exposure reduction target of a reduction of 35% by 2040 compared to a 2018 baseline. Well, what does that mean? Well, basically it means that we have to first of all get an idea of what the baseline levels are at the moment, because it's difficult to tell without the data. We're lucky in this part of the world that levels do tend to be low, but there are high spots depending what's clustered around, mainly in towns and in the larger towns of North Yorkshire. But also the impact from the population exposure reduction target is that any new development can potentially produce more pollution, which therefore would breach that target. So it's working with partners, working with planning, etc., to ask what these developers are going to do to help achieve these targets. So again, it's having an input into that. World Health Organization guidelines. Now, these are quite stringent compared to the government ones. I mean, for instance, the nitrogen dioxide one is it's gone by 2021 is down to 10 microns per cubic metre. The government one is 40. So again, and the PM10 one again is 15. Again, we use 40. So there's quite a disparity in that. But what we're trying to do is all these revocations that we're doing, it doesn't mean to say that we can rest on our laurels and the problem is solved. The latest data shows that really we should be more stringent in what we do. So the work doesn't stop there. Yes, we've ticked the box with DEFRA. We've got the statutory levels below what they need to be, but the work continues and we're working towards these World Health Organization values, which again indicators of ideal levels for public health. That's just a graph, shows the average in the old localities. It demonstrates that, again, pollution levels are gradually coming down towards that World Health Organization guideline limit at the bottom. And there's a picture there of the new monitors. There's one of my team, Sophie Nicholson, with a reprobate stood next to her, and that's the one in Malton, which has been quite useful in measuring various pollutants. That measures PM2.5, PM10 and NOx2, which has been quite useful in Malton regarding some traffic issues there. And that's me done for that for now.
Thank you very much. Time for some questions.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for an absolute brilliant report. I was spellbound listening to it all. Yeah, as far as that, how much with the reduction with the pollutants are you putting down to electric vehicles becoming more popular? And well, we don't know about the tax that the government put on it yesterday, but electric cars, they must have made one heck of a difference to the readings that you're getting.
Absolutely. It's quite difficult to quantify each aspect of improvement. I mean, over the years, even with diesel vehicles, the start-stop technology was a really good boost. The addition of AdBlue in Euro 6 engines again had an effect. You've got electric vehicles. The softer measures as well, such as the introduction of cycle lanes, better bus services, etc., which encourage people to get off the roads. And also the harder measures, such as I mentioned Bond End, where the introduction of the roundabouts and things like that. So everything has its part to play. And I think the important thing to note as well is it's not just up to local authorities or the government to impose changes. People's personal choices, when spread across society, can make an impact. So you can make a difference by the choices that you make as an individual.
Thank you, Chair. Kevin, I'm a great supporter of your work. I think air quality is vitally important and perhaps understated and underrepresented, but I can see progress being made. I'm coming to you on the view today that about 1,800 people die on the roads in the UK every year. Another 40,000 die in relation to air quality. Of those 40,000, 10,000 are attributed to air quality as a result of cars and combustion engines. So there is a question that says, how many people really die on our roads? However, what I would really like to, so that's the backdrop of where I'm coming from, of how important I see air quality. And just another point, you mentioned nitrous oxide. Well, according to me, that's 280 times approximately greater as a carbon dioxide equivalent in terms of global warming. So nitrous oxide measurement is clearly very important. One of the things that bothers me is that we are taking averages. We're also assuming that our local population is at least 10 foot tall. I noticed how high up that news thing was. So I have a concern about real time, and we can do real time now. We've developed the technology, but we're still sticking to static tubes. So it bothers me. So I hope you will influence that on the in future. We also need to think about how do we get it down to the times when it's key. So you know where I'm going. I'm going to Starbeck eventually. So I am very concerned about this. I have another concern, but I will just put this one out there and then leave it alone, which is I am very concerned about air quality in rural areas where farmers quite rightly farm. However, they do use pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, and all that sort of thing. And I don't think we really measure that. So I don't think we know. So I'm really about how do we find the information out? And I would like to understand real time. So what's it like at 5 o'clock by Starbeck Crossing? And then my question is, why has it taken us over 18 months to not get real-time measurements at Starbeck Crossing? We have owned, I don't know, I can't remember, is it £170,000 these items have cost us, and yet we still haven't deployed them. What can we, or I, do to help you? I mean, I can go fix it, but I can't guarantee a great job. But what can we do to help you deliver and help you do your job? Thank you, Chair.
Where do I start? Right. Well, first of all, you're correct what you're saying about the nitrogen dioxide levels. Diffusion tubes are a pretty rough and ready way of calculating annual averages, but they don't really give you any sort of diurnal variation throughout the day. However, the monitors that we have, although we only have 9, do give us that sort of information. If I knew how to work my computer, I've got a graph up somewhere on it which basically shows the ups and downs. So rush hour is a good example. You will get a peak at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and then when people come home again. So that demonstrates that. We're using that sort of information at Selby at the moment to try and identify if there's anything specific that's causing the issues, bearing in mind there's a breach there of the UK statutory limits. If we can pinpoint a specific time that's causing problems, perhaps we can identify the source. So using that sort of information is useful, and we are trying with that. The agricultural aspect is important. That has come in new legislation. I must admit I'm not an expert on that, but I think that there's got to be an optimum amount of fertiliser you do use to be taken for the crops, but any sort of excess on that breaks down and produces nitrogen dioxide, which can react it reacts in the atmosphere, etc., with all sorts of producing different things, but it can blow into towns as well. So we can be impacted in a town from an activity of the countryside. So you're right. So there's opportunities there to work more closely with colleagues in the Environment Agency, which we're trying to do. And the other point, Starbeck, all I will say, please keep on at me, and I shall then pass that on. Do not stop. Please continue to ask those questions, and I will then, it gives me more leverage to ask why as well.
We'll
Thank
get
you.
all the school children round Starbeck to write to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good plan. Councillor Timothy.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions, if I may. The first is that, as you'll know, Dr. Carr, the wood-burning stoves are becoming more popular amongst homeowners. And I know that sort of throughout the report you've referred to solid fuel and the change of domestic heating from solid fuel to gas, and obviously with wood-burning stoves, solid fuels coming back in certain areas. I'm very grateful for the smoke control, for the discussion of the smoke control area around Starbeck and South East Harrogate. It was me who raised that question, and I'm very grateful for the report. My question is, with the increased popularity of wood-burning stoves, is there a review of the smoke control area for Harrogate scheduled to see if there is a need again for it to be extended? And my second question is also about a review, which is Wetherby Road. We've said that, I'm very glad to see that it's dropped below the threshold to be no longer a AQMA. But as you might know from the West of Harrogate Transport and Infrastructure Plan, there's going to be a change to the layout of that junction. So my question is, will there be a monitor? Will air quality be monitored at that point, just as the road layout changes for traffic? Thanks.
Well, I'll answer that one first. I think there's a misconception. I should have explained this earlier on, so thank you for that. But there's a misconception that once there's been a revocation in an area, that the monitoring stops. It doesn't. We've got a network of, I think it's about 270 tubes, I think, over the whole county. And just because we've got to a position where those levels have become acceptable in inverted commas, we leave the tubes there and we still continue to monitor. So if there's any changes, positive or negative, we still can measure those. And for whatever reason, if there's a junction change or traffic flow change and that then goes up, well, of course, we can inform our colleagues in highways. But ultimately, if it goes above statutory levels, the air quality management area comes back. So that's that. Hopefully that answers that question. Smoke control areas. Emily, who knows a lot more about this area than I do, because she worked for a lot of years at Harrogate Borough Council, is going to hopefully answer that. This goes back originally to the Clean Air Act down back in the 1950s, when they had the terrible smogs in London, which produced legislation which moved sort of power stations out of towns and brought in grants for people to replace solid fuel with gas. So Emily's been doing some digging and found some documents which date back to when I was in short trousers and she wasn't born. It was back in the 1970s, I think. So I think she's got a little bit of presentation for you on that.
So I've been looking at the documents that we actually hold with regards to the smoke control areas that are already in place, which is limited, I will say, bearing in mind it was the 1970s. It looks like they started in the Otley Road area and then moved in a circle, basically, around Harrogate, two of which were implemented before Harrogate Borough Council came into existence, and then Harrogate Borough Council have followed on to 8 or 9 or 10 different areas. So I think the last one that was introduced was Christchurch area in the late 70s, early 80s. And I think at that point, gas was becoming a much more common household heating use. So that's when they stopped implementing them, which leaves obviously the Starbeck area and sort of Saints area, I think, as well, as the only two areas in Harrogate that weren't included. it may not be of too much use, but DEFRA have actually installed a background PM2.5 and PM10 monitor in, just bear with me, on Fairfax Avenue. So that was there from about January time. So you'd be able to get figures for background concentrations there, which would be obviously influenced by wood burning from residential properties. So it will give some sort of indication as to what the levels are in that area. Unfortunately, we literally have maps and orders regarding the smoke control areas. That's the level of the information that we hold. So I can't offer any more information, sorry.
I think it's important to state as well that basically, to really summarise what Emily's saying is they seem to have covered half of Harrogate and then realised that the prevalence of gas central heating was such that the problem was solved, for want of a better word. So therefore, the implementation of the smoke control areas appears to have stopped, and that's why there's only partial coverage in across the whole of Harrogate. What are we doing about this? Yes, the conundrum at the moment is, yes, everyone changed from coal fires to get gas, and now it's going the other way with these solid fuel burners. So yes, it is a bit of a concern at the moment that we don't want to end up in the position that we started in. So what are we doing about it? Emily mentioned that DEFRA, as part of this PM2.5 legislation, they're putting extra monitors around the country from their perspective. We had a particulate monitor on Kingsley Road, was it, for about 2 years, monitoring some construction work. But again, that would have been useful to pick up any smoke data, and that turned out to be okay, didn't it, as far as we know. So using the monitors that we've got now as well enables us to at least have a watching brief on what's going on. You can't just introduce legislation for no reason. It's a bit draconian, so you've got to identify a problem first before you can really get the sledgehammer out to crack the nut, sort of thing. But so what we would do is first of all try and establish if there's a problem, but in the meantime try and have jump on the bandwagon of education campaigns. I mentioned Clean Air Day. There's a Clean Air Night as well. There's a campaign, so we're hoping to promote that as well, which brings to the attention of people the risks of solid fuel burning. So it's working with public health colleagues as well on that. It's education and information, and also monitoring, and really legislation would only be a last resort.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very briefly.
Very briefly, if I may, Chair. Yeah, thank you very much. I'd be very interested to see the data from the Fairfax Avenue monitor, if we can get it from the central government. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
We've got time for 2, maybe 3 questions. Councillor Mann first. I've noted yours.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for a very fascinating report. I've just got a question in relation to the M&S Junction area, which, as you know, hosts or is the scene of about 44,000 vehicles using the A61 going north-south between Leeds and Harrogate. The air quality at the junction is not good, but I can't, to be frank, think of a solution. But I just wondered what your thoughts were and whether or not we should monitor the level of pollution at that junction. Thanks.
We did actually do a year's monitoring around the junction and on Leadhall Lane as well. So we had a diffusion tube up at Leeds Road and one on Leadhall Lane, just to get some data, because we have had contact from people worried about air quality in the area. So when we were Harrogate, that's what we were trying to identify, areas that people obviously had concerns about, and do a year's study to see whether there's any potential for the objectives being breached. So we have got some data from about, I think it's 2022 or 2023 for that, if you would like to see it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Aldred and then Councillor Warnock, and we'll conclude the item there.
Thank you. Can I repeat my colleagues' thanks for that report? Really comprehensive, and I'm sure many of our residents will find it really, really interesting as well. I've just got 3 specific questions, and hopefully they're very quick answers. Am I right in saying we've talked about the Starbeck level crossing? That was the money we put aside from this committee when we had some money to generate local business, etc. Is that what we're talking about? It is, right. When that is installed, will that area automatically become an air quality management zone then, when it's in there, when we can monitor it?
It would depend what the results are. We do have a diffusion tube where we've got two diffusion tubes in that area which are compliant for nitrogen dioxide. But we don't have any particulate data from that area, so it would depend what the results are before we could actually declare.
So you basically do a preliminary findings, and it depends on that. Okay.
Yeah.
And the Kingsley Road monitor we mentioned, is that actually taken down now, Emily? Because the construction schemes are still going on, and I'm still getting loads and loads of comments from residents who are concerned. I thought it was still there. I didn't realise you'd kind of ceased operation, ceased the monitoring.
We intended to monitor for about a year, but it ended up being nearer 2, I think. So it was removed a year and a half ago, maybe.
It's actually that's the one that's in Bond End now, in the air quality management area. But again, it depends if. I don't sound like I'm passing the book. Within environmental health, if people still have issues with dust, there's two issues which are different but similar. You've got statutory limits for air quality. Now, just because something is legal, it doesn't necessarily mean to say that it's not causing a nuisance to somebody. So if people have concerns about dust blowing on their property from construction work, now it may not be sort of an air quality issue as such, but it could well fall under nuisance, which is investigated by our colleagues in environmental protection. So even though there's not a monitor there, or even if there was a monitor there that said it's compliant with regard to air quality, that's not quite the same. If they're having issues with dust blowing on their property, which is affecting their enjoyment and use of that property, then that could be investigated as nuisance, and the levels of sort of air quality levels don't really apply to that, so they could still go through the nuisance route.
So it's to go back to environmental health and make the concerns made there.
Yes, if they've got issues with dust, they could make a nuisance complaint about dust.
Okay, because those construction schemes, I was there on Monday, are very much going on, and there are wagons every day, 30, 40 wagons every day of the week going up and down Kingsley Road and Kingsley Drive. Some of them are covered, some of them are not, and there's another planning application coming on stream as well, so it's not gone away, it's still there. But thank you for your advice, and I'll pass it on.
Yeah, oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Final question from Arnold.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just clarify for those members that don't realise that actually 20% of the people I represent are covered by this committee, and whilst I'm not allowed to propose anything or vote, Constitution allows me to make comment and ask questions. And my ramblings, Kevin, somewhere in my ramblings there will be the odd question. I thank you for the report. I thank you for doing a task that's really, really important but challenging. In many ways challenging. We concur on our views about the link between air quality and climate change, without a doubt. And if I just touch on what has been raised by other members about burning of logs, I think at a seminar at TEEE, all those E's, I did ask the question about the relationship between ready to burn, the 20% below moisture content, and the legislation of enforcing that, because the irony is that at the moment what's happening is, because people are acutely aware of not burning wet wood, that we are using gas to dry wood, calling it kiln dried, and then shipping it from Eastern Europe. So the link between getting good air quality in Harrogate and the climate change is huge because of that process of achieving that aim. Going to the report, my comments are by no means a criticism of your hard work, honestly, but I am a bit concerned that I heard members often use the phrase hands are tied. I'm a bit concerned that maybe you feel your hands are tied, because we are in a position where we could do more about improving air quality in the county. Under the heading absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. I think the reality is that we maybe, if it's not happening, because I don't think it is, but correct me if I'm wrong, we should look at a hybrid version of monitoring air quality, which other local authorities do, for the purpose of acknowledging that we can't afford to buy all these expensive bits of equipment that we need to have out there on a systematic basis. And therefore, I would suggest that maybe a way forward is a hybrid where we have cheaper equipment that identifies areas which we need then to put the more expensive equipment into, rather than just put the more expensive equipment in and then identify it's not a problem. So I suppose amongst all that ramblings, there's a few questions there maybe you could decipher. Thank you.
No, some very good points there. It's again, one of the advantages of LGR is it brings a lot of different departments under the same roof. So again, working with climate change colleagues, we've got very close relationships with them. It's still early days, really, trying to work out who's doing what and where. But again, paradoxes that you point out there, such as you can have certain approved fuels, but then there's a climate change impact in the production of those fuels. Again, it's part of that public information campaign, and down to people making their own informed choices as to what they want to do. But I think that's a question for us to be working together as a team and doing more publicity. We do have a communication section as well. Every department thinks they should have more time and be able to have more communications. But we do our best with that. But I think moving forward, there's definitely scope for that joint working and more public information so people can make informed choices. Believe it or not, the monitors we do have are classed as low-cost monitors. We bought 6 new ones a couple of years ago now. It was £120,000 it cost us, and they're the cheap ones. So it's an expensive business operating air quality monitors, and the ones which are the European reference equivalent ones, which is like the state-of-the-art ones, you're talking tens of thousands of pounds to get those. So you're right in what you're saying. The advantage of the ones we have at the moment, the locations we've got, which I can tell you if maybe outside this meeting, they can move. So the idea that we've had really is to sort of scope different areas. We've picked some that we thought would be a good place to start, get some information about them, but it doesn't mean to say that they have to stay there. Once we've got enough information and we feel as if we've done what we can do, we can move them. So that's the general idea. So hopefully that agrees really with what you're saying, and that if information comes to light, and again we rely on partners, including yourselves, to point out concerns over certain areas, we can look at maybe relocating over time those monitors to those locations.
Briefly?
Very briefly. I also like your relationship between active travel and improving air quality. And then you used the phrase personal choice. But can I comment, and it's more pertinent to the next item on the agenda probably, that you don't have a personal choice with active travel if you don't have the infrastructure in place to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Good comment.
And an excellent segue. Thank you very much. And thank you, Kevin and Emily, for the report and for being open. And I'm sure there will be a flow now of requests, information, data, etc., to inform decision making. Good. We will move on to, in effect, back to public participation. 4 statements that we have that all relate to item 6 on our agenda on active travel. So we will take those statements. We won't debate, but as they relate to the item, I'm sure there will be opportunity to raise some of the issues that you may well raise in your statements in the debate that follows the presentation and the update. So statement 1, submitted by Jenny Haywood. Who's reading that?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So we are calling once again for the full and expedited delivery of the South and West Harrogate 20-mile-an-hour zone. Repeated delays to its implementation have left children and residents exposed to unnecessary risks, despite overwhelming community support for action. Completion of Phase 2 has now been postponed until late 2026, far beyond the original 2024 target for implementation of the full scheme. In the meantime, roads with average speeds above 24 miles per hour remain unchanged, and traffic continues to speed in close proximity to children, placing them and the wider public at ongoing risk. This is particularly alarming given the serious accident involving 2 children, teenagers, in February 2023, and the daily use of these roads by over 6,000 students from 7 local schools: Ashville, Rossett School, Rossett Acre Primary, Harrogate Grammar School and Western Primary in the Panelash area, St John Fishers and St Aidan's in the Oatlands area. Many others use these roads to get to sports and further education facilities also. As a reminder, our application for a 20-mile-an-hour zone in the Panelash area was submitted in November 2022 under the Council's own policy. North Yorkshire Council acknowledged the need for speed reduction and traffic calming measures in 2023, announcing the South and West Harrogate 20-mile-an-hour scheme that September. The initial plan was to start with Green Lane and Panelash Road, with public consultation showing strong support for speed cushions and a reduction to 20 miles an hour. 94.3% of respondents from properties directly fronting Green Lane and 62.7% from Panelash Road supported the proposals, with similarly high backing from neighbouring streets. Despite this, in September 24, the Council announced that they were not progressing with the plan, citing the need to redesign traffic calming infrastructure. More than a year later, the situation remains stagnant. The ongoing delay has been attributed to awaiting results from a sinusoidal cushion trial in York, even though such calming measures have long been used successfully elsewhere across the UK and Europe. Meanwhile, other counties have moved quickly. Ilkley, for example, progressed from consultation on speed cushions to implementation within just 4 months, October 23 to February 24. Residents' frustration is mounting. Testimonials from local families highlight daily anxiety about student safety and near misses. "I can't let my child walk. It's just too risky," says one parent. "I was hit by the wing mirror of a car," this is on the pavement, "whilst I was walking my child to school," adds another resident. In other parts of the country, we see school streets, targeted 20-mile-an-hour zones, traffic calming measures, including sinusoidal cushions, and low-traffic neighbourhoods becoming the norm, with measurable benefits in terms of safety, air quality, sense of place, and general well-being. We in North Yorkshire are being left far behind. As part of a recently established combined authority with fresh objectives for promoting active travel, we call on both the Council and the combined authority to demonstrate bold leadership and take decisive action to complete the South and West Harrogate 20-mile-an-hour scheme as soon as possible, instead of persisting with a partially implemented scheme that leaves residents and children exposed to speeding traffic. Therefore, we ask, what can be done to expedite the full delivery of the South and West Harrogate 20-mile-an-hour zone, so that this important safety measure is completed urgently in full, rather than remaining a half-finished project that continues to put vulnerable groups at risk?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Officers have prepared a response that combines the response to the 4 statements. So we'll move through the 4 statements and then take that response. So the second statement submitted by Hazel Peacock. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question. Will this committee support a bid-ready road safety and active travel scheme and seek to address barriers in North Yorkshire policy to realise this? In 2023, over 900 people signed the petition for the 20-mile-an-hour scheme for South and West Harrogate, which included Leadhall Lane, Hookstone Road, Hookstone Drive, Otley Road and a key urban section of Leeds Road. These roads were not progressed due to North Yorkshire Council policy and the North Yorkshire Council policy classification of them as strategic. But most are C roads, Leadhall Lane, Hookstone Road and Hookstone Drive, and none are on the key route network. Given 20 miles an hour is being rolled out on red routes in London, it would appear these policy and classification barriers are immaterial. With 6 schools, colleges, shops and businesses situated on or just off them, the roads are used every day by thousands of school children and community members, yet daily risks are faced on them due to speeding, risky driving and driver mobile phone use, all putting lives in danger. Leadhall Lane is 1 kilometre long, with no crossings. School children are forced to dash across it at their peril. Otley Road has witnessed serious and even fatal collisions and is a key route to Harrogate Grammar School. On Hookstone Road, Oatlands Infant School has reported 3 near misses in the last year. And in January 2024, a young person suffered serious injuries at the Hornbeam Park train station crossing due to collision at 3:30 in the afternoon. Police and North Yorkshire data shows the 85th percentile speeds to be 40 miles per hour on Leadhall Lane, 40/36 miles per hour on Hookstone Drive, 35/30 miles an hour on Hookstone Road, 32/31 miles per hour on Otley Road, and 32/33 miles an hour on Leeds Road. Transport for London evidence shows a person hit by a vehicle at 30 miles an hour is up to 5 times more likely to be killed than if they were hit at 20 miles an hour, meaning children and community are at continued risk on these roads. This is compounded with evidence in the British Medical Journal, the BMJ, this month, citing a 44% relative increase in the likelihood of death for an adult pedestrian or cyclist hit by an SUV or similarly large car compared with a standard car. And for children, an 82% relative increase in the likelihood of death. Evidence which is especially alarming considering Harrogate is listed in the top 20 UK locations for SUV ownership. References Climate Charity Possible. The appetite for active travel is growing in our community. The Oatlands Bike Bus has seen 1,000 journeys in the past year, and there is enormous opportunity for change, but road safety is a continued barrier. We ask you to join us in putting children and community at the heart of decision making and support the delivery of this scheme. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Statement 3, submitted by Stephanie Talbot.
I'm reading this on behalf of Stephanie. For those who don't know her, one of her children was severely injured on Yew Tree Lane. That was one of the teenagers I mentioned in my statement. So she submitted this in relation to the delay of works and implementation around the Phase 2 scheme. Imagine for just 1 second that you could be the decision maker for keeping the streets safer by reducing the speed of vehicles. Now imagine that the process takes at least 4 years to complete. During that time, a child walking on those streets has started and almost left school. That is the reality of my youngest child. He no longer walks to school. He used to, until his older brother got hit whilst walking on the pavement to school and he witnessing it. His parents are too scared to let him walk, as the devastation of the accident caused our family's life to shatter. Now imagine a girl who had her first car for 1 month before it got destroyed by the very same vehicle that hit her brother and his friend. She eventually got another car, but the mental toll it took on her. She'd only just stopped therapy this year, 2.5 years later. A few months after this, another speeding vehicle, the very people that are meant to protect you, the police, crashes her car off the road whilst travelling in the wrong lane. Her car rolls over 4 to 5 times, another car destroyed, and more trauma for her and our family again. She was very lucky not to have been killed or to have killed somebody walking on the pavement as her car landed in a garden. Would you imagine this to be your town? Because both accidents are within 5 minutes' drive of our house. So now we have to travel on 2 of our nearest roads and see the scenes almost every day. All because no one can make immediate decisions within the council that could prevent accidents like these. Speed kills, injures, and destroys lives. I cannot comprehend how a council can ever get anything done if a decision about reducing speed for a certain section of the community takes 4 years, considering there have been 2 major incidents in its location, Otley Road and Yew Tree Lane. I have no faith in your system. I live with the fact that our roads are dangerous. I feel like living in this town, the council favours cars and convenience over its people. I hope you feel safe walking on the pavements around Harrogate, because I don't. Thank you.
And statement 4, submitted by Gia, read by Malcolm.
Yes,
Thank you.
unfortunately, Gia's poorly this morning, so I'm reading her
Thank you for
statement.
coming.
Thank you. Good morning. I would like to commend Jasmine Gibson and her team for the delivery of 2 schemes: Victoria Avenue, resurfaced with improved crossings for pedestrians and cyclists. The original bid for Victoria Avenue was for cycle lanes, but as happens with great regularity, these were stripped out. Promises for future implementation are unlikely to materialise. Victoria Avenue improvements would have been much more benefit for cyclists if the Beech Grove scheme had remained in place. It was safe for cyclists and had more supporters than detractors. It was hampered due to the failure to introduce the Victoria Road plug, which would have stopped the rat run. The promise of a replacement scheme has never materialised, and the battle for space from parked cars and speeding cars using the road as a rat run means that this part of the cycle network is unsafe and broken. The council should be bold and reintroduce this inexpensive, simple design. The Wetherby Road crossing. Again, great credit and thanks to Jasmine for steering through this project and listening to suggestions along the way. It is a far better design than the one planned back in 2014. Active Travel Team. There is no mention in the report of the Active Travel Team. This has been promised for several years, but is yet to be announced. West of Harrogate. This is referred to in the Active Travel report, with works due to be delivered in summer 2026. Where can the public see the designs? Will there be consultations? The last engagement looking at draft mitigation schemes was in September 2023. All designs are focused on getting more traffic through junctions. There were no cycle schemes other than those within the developments. How many of the councillors are aware that Trinity Road is to become an official rat run? That in every design, pedestrian space is being taken away for more vehicles? Have the councillors looked at the plans? I recommend you read the HDCA report. How does North Yorkshire plan to deal with the ever-increasing number of vehicles squeezing through our narrow lanes and congested streets? Where are the active travel projects in place to help modal shift and the messaging to ask people to walk, cycle, or take the bus if they can? The only signs we see at the moment are studies on traffic flow and altering junctions to get more cars through. As this has been the strategy for the last 20 years and congestion has got worse, what real vision do the council have to make a difference? The next phase of work in Harrogate is centred around the ever-increasing number of developments, but not one of them has any safe, continuous cycle route to access the town. Current schemes are all being met with, in quotes, too difficult to achieve. Councillors, we need you to challenge and help to bring about change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and for all those statements. Now we have Jasmine Gibson and Melissa both being connected, and I understand there will be a statement in response, or a response to the statements, and then we'll have the item 6 as an update on active travel schemes. Jasmine and Melissa, welcome. I don't know which one of you is going to read the response.
Yeah, I'll make a start. Obviously, there's quite a lot of material in the statements submitted by the public there. Due to annual leave and the fact that we need input from a number of officers, we're not able to provide a full response to all of the queries raised at this time. But we will follow up with a written response and ensure up that all those are addressed. I would, however, like to read a statement to Hazel and Jenny and Ruth's queries, though, if that's okay. So the first one of those was, will the committee support a bid-ready road safety and active travel scheme and seek to address barriers in NYC policy to realise it? So the response to that is that we note your suggestion of developing a bid-ready active travel scheme. However, the decision not to include Leeds Road, Wetherby Road, Otley Road, Huxton Drive, Huxton Road and Leadhall Lane was not due to budgetary constraints. It is due to the classification of these and use of these roads in line with NYC's policy. A detailed review of this matter was reported to previous area committees. These roads are either Category 2 or Category 3A roads, which are classed as strategic distributor or main distributor roads in Harrogate. These category roads perform a key function in the overall road network and are either strategic routes or link urban centres to the strategic network. In urban areas in particular, speed limits are usually 40 miles an hour or less, parking is restricted at peak times, and there are positive measures for pedestrian safety. This general description of a Category 3A road does represent the function of Huxton Road and Huxton Drive, as they form a key link between the two strategic routes, Wetherby Road and Leeds Road, and there are already positive measures for pedestrian safety, mainly through several signalised crossing points along the corridor. Leadhall Lane is a Category 3B road with no natural trip protractors. It's also considered that achieving a self-enforcing 20-mile-an-hour zone in this area would not be practicable. This decision is further reinforced when we consider the existing vehicle speeds in all of these locations. So a decision not to proceed with 20 mile an hour and associated traffic calming on the strategic routes is in line with North Yorkshire Council's 20 mile an hour policy. Okay, and then
Thank you. Carry on.
Thanks. And then the second question there was, what can be done to expedite the full delivery of the South and West Harrogate 20 mile an hour zone so that this important safety measure is completed in full, rather than the remaining a half-finished project that continues to put vulnerable groups at risk? So officers continue to work on this, but it is vital that the traffic calming measures implemented are robust and reduce the speed and ensure that any implemented 20 mile an hour zones are self-enforcing. This is paramount to ensure the safety of our vulnerable groups long term. These measures will vary in design depending on the site. NYC officers have had initial discussions with colleagues in the police regarding the designs, and further work will be taking place in December and January to ensure we have engineering solutions that we are certain will bring these speeds down. Officers can offer reassurances that we will continue to the work to the timelines set out in this report and offer updates on progress in the next March committee.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to further responses, recognising that they've come in relatively recently, and there's a lot there. Edward, can you just clarify in terms of getting those responses communicated to members of the public? How will that happen?
Yes, so those responses will be communicated to me, and I've got your emails from when you sent the statements in, so I'll pass those on to you as well as to members of the committee as well.
Thank you. If we move on then to the substantive item on item 6, progress report has been circulated with the papers. Jasmine, I'm looking behind or on this little screen. Jasmine or Melissa, do you want to add anything to the report? It has been circulated, so I don't think you're expecting to give a presentation, but is there anything you want to highlight?
No, just a couple of key points that I'd like to run over, just to sort of highlight, but then obviously if committee members would like to ask any further questions, then me and Melissa would be happy to cover those. Firstly, I'd just like to sort of thank the public for the positive feedback that we've had since being able to get the Wetherby Road crossing in. That was delivered at the end of October, and yeah, we've had a lot of positive feedback about that, so thank you for that. We're hoping to follow that with the Oatlands parallel crossing. That work is scheduled to take place from February, so that'll be another positive improvement in that area. And then the other item that I did want to have a little chat through is the 20 miles an hour on the sinusoidal cushions, but I think, like you say, everyone's read the report. So if there are any specific questions, it might be easier if me and Melissa just look to address those.
Okay, thank you very much for highlighting those. I'll open it to comment and question from our councillors. Councillor Mann.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Yasmin, for a very helpful report. I'm looking at paragraph 9.3 of the report, which refers to sinusoidal cushions, which I think are a great idea. They're not half as severe and jarring as the usual speed cushions, so I would very much support the use of that type of cushions. I was thinking in particular of Yew Tree Lane and Green Lane, which have recently been reduced to 20 miles an hour, and I think those cushions would be very useful in those two lanes, and I'm sure the residents would welcome the opportunity to be consulted on that. In relation to 20 mile an hour zones outside schools, I hear what you say about Huxton Road being either a strategic road. I think you said it was a 3A or category 3 road. It certainly connects the A61 with the A58. But having said that, there is Oatlands Infant School on that road. And I just wondered if you could consider the possibility of a 20 mile an hour area outside that school, please. And also, there are schools on Yew Tree Lane as well. And I know the speed has been reduced to 20, so I think, as I say, sinusoidal cushions on that road will be really useful. Just looking at your table, your helpful table in paragraph 9.6, where you talk about the schedule for the consultation and then the implementation of these cushions. Can we presume, therefore, that once the consultation has taken place on the use of sinusoidal cushions, I presume the work will be carried out in about 12 months' time, next autumn, is that correct? And last question, in relation to Winnie Lane, certainly I think that's a candidate for the use of these cushions, and I wondered if that was the case, when would that benefit from sinusoidal cushions? So thank you, Chair.
Do you want to come in first,
Jasmine,
Melissa,
yes.
and I'll follow up?
Or Melissa.
I can
Thank
do.
you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just make sure I've got all these questions. So I think the first one was regards to Oatlands Infant School and whether we could have 20 mile an hour outside there. It was something that we looked at as part of the first phase, the early review. We have implemented a 20 mile an hour on the residential street at the side of the school. But obviously, because that was Hookstone, part of Hookstone Drive, Hookstone Road area, we did not make the decision to follow through with a 20 mile an hour on that road. What we did commit to, though, was some improvements with signing and lining in that area. As you know, Councillor Mann, we introduced the bad signs, which I think have made an improvement. We are going to do some more surveys out there in the new year just to see what that improvement has been looking like. And we're also looking at introducing some double yellow lines on that corridor as well, and a lining refresh, which has been long overdue, and they'll hopefully be implemented in the new year. but we have had some objections to the first consultation with those WL lines. So it's something that we have to revisit, unfortunately, but we are hoping we can get those through in the new year. And I'll certainly keep you updated with that. The other question, apologies, my light has just gone out. The other question was sinusoidal humps on Yew Tree Lane. That's certainly something that we'll be looking at. We're going through the designs at the minute, and as Jasmine had said in the statement, each site is very different in terms of what those designs look like. You may find that we might be looking at a mix of measures, so it could be sinusoidal humps and chicanes in some areas, for example. Each site is very different, and it's important we get it right first time so that we have that long-term safety measure. If we're putting something in there, we want to make sure that as soon as it goes in, it's self-enforcing. What we don't want is 20 signs up and then to find that actually they're not working, and we should have put the correct measures in right first time. So that's, I appreciate there's a delay. I appreciate it feels like these designs are taking some time, but there is a reason for that, and that's purely because every site is different, and we want to make sure that what we put in there is going to be self-enforcing and is actually going to bring those speeds down. But Yew Tree Lane is certainly an area that we'll be looking at for those measures. And the Winnie Lane, I think that hasn't been included in this phase 2, I don't believe, but it's something that has been raised before, and we'll look at that as a separate project. So it's not a no, it's something that we have to review, but we'll certainly be looking at it.
Yeah, I think just to follow on from that, on Winnie Lane, we wanted to have a look at what the impacts of the west of Harrogate development were on that, and then sort of consider those impacts, additional traffic volumes, and then determine what the appropriate measures would be in that area.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Timothy.
Thank you, Chair. I do have 2 questions, if I may, but before I come to those, I'd just like to express my support for put my support on the record for Councillor Mann's suggestion of 20 miles an hour on Hookstone Road, but we've discussed this in this place at length previously. My questions were that were first on the speed cushions. I do welcome the speed cushions, and I'm not opposed to the idea of a consultation at all. I know that we have to do it, and it's right to get public buy-in. I'm concerned as to how the difference between different types of speed bump are going to be explained to members of the public who are participating in the consultation, some of whom might just see a speed bump as a speed bump and not necessarily understand the difference when they come to the consultation, because it's not their area, and that's perfectly understandable. But my second question is that in the list of projects in the Appendix A, I'm very pleased to see that work in Wetherby Road Crossing has been completed and is being welcomed by members of the community. However, I was surprised to see the absence of the other Wetherby Road Crossing but near Sainsbury's at the southern end of Wetherby Road, which I believe to be the highest volume non-controlled pedestrian crossing in the country. So yeah, I'd be interested to know what the plan, to receive an update on what the plan is for that. So thank you very much.
That last question took some research, but is there a response?
Okay, so asking about the different types of traffic calming, as you say, the public might not be particularly familiar with the terminology, so we'll have to put some thought into how we explain that to different people. It might be that we put a page on the website and have illustrations and drawings, which would help to explain that in a better way than just trying to sort of explain in words, because I appreciate different people sort of take information in different ways. So we can definitely put some thought into that and ensure that the messaging that we're presenting to the public is very clear and that they know exactly what it is that they're commenting on. In terms of the crossing point at the Sainsbury's and Wetherby Road Railway Road junction, there's been an allocation from the ATF 5 funding from that. Don't quote me on the numbers, but I think it's somewhere in the region of around £150,000 has been allocated to that junction, with match funding from our internal traffic signals department as well to add pedestrian facilities onto that junction. So yeah, works on that. The designs are currently being developed, and as a term of the ATF 5 funding, works for that need to be delivered on the ground by, I believe it was 2027, March 2027. So we'll be able to provide a further update on that as those designs are developed.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is a popular item. I have five more people indicating that they have a question. So if the question could be brief, that would help us progress. In fact, 6. Goodness me. Right, okay. Councillor Schofield.
Thank you, Chair. What I'd like to do, I'm just going to go back a little bit to the original statements made, if I may. Because as you heard earlier, that the personal effects are not just on an individual, but the family as well when these horrible accidents happen within our roads. I personally believe that with regards to the Harlow Hill and the Panel Ash and the Huxton programme, I personally believe that it's imperative that we move forward with it at pace. When you consider the number of houses that are due to be built within the west of Harrogate, it would be prudent, in my opinion, to have this sooner rather than later. Because therefore we could create an environment before houses are even built, therefore ensuring the future residents see and understand the local commute and active travel solutions in place before moving into the community. Because I do feel at times, as a council, we do things in the wrong way round, and I think it'd be prudent to have all this in place before all the housing gets put up. But also, with regards to the cushions, is there, because did somebody say that they're already in use in somewhere else in many places? Why do we need to do extra research on it if it's already there? Or is that just me being naive? Sorry, that is the question on that. But I just think it's prudent that we move forward with this a lot quicker because, as Councillor Aldred has said in the past when he's been chair, this keeps coming back to committee, coming back to committee, coming back to committee, and we don't seem to move any further forward with it. So I think it's time that we really did start pushing forward with this a lot quicker.
Okay. Jasmine and Melissa, if it's okay with you, I'm going to suggest that we run round the other questions and that you take a note and respond as far as you can today. But a note will be made and we'll obviously follow up each of the concerns. So I'm going to work around the other questions. Councillor Goslow.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask for clarification on the mentioned promised active travel team? And if this is not a current reality, who do we have the constructive discussion with in order to address the barriers in North Yorkshire policy, as has been mentioned, to getting active travel schemes implemented, possibly with a comparison to best practice in other councils? With concerns raised by my residents in Knaresborough community, I am sure of the priority they feel towards this. In terms of the A59 missing link, I'd just like a better understanding of what's the latest position on this, how much resource this has taken up in terms of time from the very beginnings of this scheme, and how much the entire cost of this work has been. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Slater.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick point on the Bilton to Hornbeam Park cycle route. This was obviously something that we discussed at Area Committee before, because it's something that we've actually used some of our seed funding for. And I thought at the time we had already discussed the use of the greenaway within that, so I was quite surprised to see that time had been spent trying to find a route between Bilton Lane and Dragon Road. You know, the pathway that you discuss of going from Grove Park Avenue, I was cycling that 20 years ago to get my daughter to Hornbeam Park at nursery. You know, if you speak to local people on the ground, we probably could have sped this up.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Aldred.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to make the point, really, that I'm really in favour of all the road safety schemes which we've talked about, etc. But other schools are available. And I do have a couple in my patch, Harrogate High School and St Robert's, and the area around Kingsley is coming back very, very quickly to a rat run. We mentioned several other rat runs. They're all over the place, but this is the one that goes down Boggs Lane eventually and takes you to Knaresborough, avoiding the lovely Starbeck crossing. I just want to, the question is, I know tomorrow the Environment Head of Service and the Cabinet member are meeting, and I think they are recommending, or the officer recommendation is there is going to be a new speed management policy introduced. And am I right in saying that this will be the speed management policy, which these schemes we've already mentioned are already up and running and continuing, but for any new area, if residents wanted to get together and look at a speed management policy in other areas, perhaps Kingsley, we go through the guidelines of this new policy, which is detailed in the agenda for tomorrow's meeting. Is that correct? Is my question.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. So I think we do need to acknowledge some of the work that the Highways team have done. They have started to progress things, which is great to see and a real positive. It is unfortunately painfully slow. And I think, Councillor Goslow's point is really prudent. We need to look at that, and perhaps once we've got those answers, we need to think about potential priorities, either that we can set here or we can set as part of budget setting. So I do welcome getting those numbers and how we can look to help and support further work that has been done. I suppose my question really relates to Knaresborough and the missing link. So I know we've funded some of this through the area committee with the £50,000. Obviously, not all of that was to this particular scheme, but we have put some money, and I just want to make sure that it progresses so that that's not a waste of money. I know there are challenges with the bridge, but I just want to clarify whether Active Travel England or the combined authority would actually fund that missing stretch regardless of the issues with the bridge. So if I could get clarity on that, because I just want to know whether it's going to happen or not, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, for questions, Councillor Warnocken.
Thank you, Chairman. Question for the officers, but also one for you, please, and it's clarity. Did I hear that because we have an officer on holiday, there wasn't a complete response to one of the statements, and therefore they've lost the right to respond back? And if so, can you not use your discretion to allow them to respond back because there's an incomplete response because somebody's on holiday? That's a question to you, Chair. And then I would like to also make a point and support Councillor Goslow in reference to the active travel team. This is something that I think has really been overlooked in terms of its importance. And if you listen to the parents, the schools, the cyclists, and the pedestrians and members regarding active travel, road safety, air quality, etc. The way I see this being resolved is for us to bite the bullet and put this team in place. And so my question is to the officers, when?
I'm just consulting. On that list of questions, Jasmine or Melissa, do you want to come back and just touch on any or all? So, Melissa, I think you're talking, but you're on mute.
I am, sorry, I'm battling with my light that keeps going off as well. Yeah, I'll make a start. I think what we'll do is we'll take all of them there and prepare a separate response as well, just so that we make sure that we're covering everything in detail. In terms of the active travel team, that is something very much on the agenda still. It has taken a back burner while they've been doing additional restructures in network strategy, but it is something very much that they're wanting to set up. I would say that it hasn't halted the work, in terms of the delivery of active travel schemes. We've had a really successful year, and we mustn't forget that. Whilst I appreciate historically the pace has been slow, this year we have seen some very good successful active travel schemes delivered, and there's some positive conversations taking place with Active Travel England regarding that. So they tend to be within Harrogate area, as opposed to other areas in the county. That's just at the minute where the money has historically been focused. But there are certainly plans to develop the Active Travel team in the new year, and we'll provide further information once we have that. That will sit within Alan McVeigh's team in the network strategy team. And Alan's currently going through other restructures within the team, having taken on major projects. Which in major projects obviously has that's the remit of Kexgill and TCF. So there are some large projects within that team that they're delivering. With regards to research of sinusoidal humps and the effective pace, in terms of the pace of the project, I can offer reassurances that we are working as quickly as we can with the project on phase 2. We've had a successful delivery of phase 1, and we are very much focused on the delivery of phase 2. We always knew that was going to be a little bit trickier because of the designs and the traffic calming that we have to implement. It requires extensive consultation with the communities in the vicinity of the sites and the wider community to ensure that we get that right. We have been working with York, who have also introduced sinusoidal humps recently. So to a certain extent, that research has been done, and we've had those discussions over the summer. We've had discussions with the police over the summer regarding that as well. So I think we're in a position where we can say the research is there. We've done that, and we're now focusing on actually getting the designs complete and over the line. And we'll be in a position to consult in the new year on those. I think regarding the A59, I know we did have a meeting with members to discuss that regarding the missing link. Timescales, Jasmine, are you able to fill us in with any timescales you have following conversation with Active Travel England on that?
We have previously had a design review meeting with Active Travel England discussing that scheme. Councillor Walker mentioned the issues that we've got about not being able to get a compliant solution over the High Bridge. That is a difficulty with these schemes because Active Travel England do expect everything to be fully compliant, and that bridge really is a barrier. It's a listed building, and it's got numerous different protections because of that. So we need to really think about what we can deliver without impacting that, and whether we can, what we can do in terms of an entire link. In the last design review meeting, Active Travel England did make some suggestions. We've had a little look at that, but we do need to have a follow-up meeting with them. We've not been able to arrange that meeting just yet, but I would imagine by the next ACC we should be able to provide a more detailed update on that scheme.
Thanks, Jasmine. And just in terms of Councillor Slater's response or query regarding the Bilton to Hornbeam Park route, I completely understand your point in terms of that local knowledge. We also have people who have been working and living in Harrogate in the team for a long time, so they're also familiar with that. I think the original design for that wasn't unfortunately taken out of this team, and they hadn't necessarily consulted with the relevant people. So we'll move on from that. We understand the issues, and we certainly understand that need to address the local stakeholders to get that input. We've been working with the cycle group for a long time, so obviously we were very much aware that that link was there and very well used, and has been for some time. And we'll take that forward to the consultants to make sure that that's considered. And I think I feel I've covered everything, but if I've missed anything, I have made a note of it. Jasmine's made a note of it, and I'm sure Edward has as well. So we'll make sure we get a written response to all of those, just so you've got them in writing.
Sorry, the new speed management policy, is that the procedure to follow as of tomorrow? Yes, the new speed management policy, is that the procedure, if that gets passed tomorrow, that is the procedure to follow? Yep.
I presume so. I mean, I wouldn't like to I wouldn't like to presume the presentation tomorrow. It's not something that I'm presenting. But yeah, that my understanding is that that's certainly going to be the guidance in terms of next steps for the speed management across the county. But further guidance will come out following that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Right, Thank you very much. The channels of communication are clearly open. It's a subject of passion, and if any of the councillors feel they haven't had an answer, you know where to go. But in the interest of time, we'll move on a little. The 4 members of the public, you do have, and despite the fact that 2 didn't receive a written response, you do have the right for a 30-second supplementary, and I'm going to allow that for any of those statements, but it is just a 30-second comeback. So, yes, Hazel looks like she wants to do that.
Oh, there we go. That's it. You can all hear me. Excellent. Thank you very much for this opportunity to ask a supplementary question. So my supplementary question is, please can North Yorkshire Council explain why red routes, the classification of red routes in London are having a programme of 20 miles an hour delivered across them to deliver better road safety for the capital and encourage active travel and also improve air quality across the city, whilst in North Yorkshire, 20 miles an hour on a C road or B road is not possible.
Thank you. Is that a supplementary you can answer now, or is it something that you need to?
If they can answer it now,
Yeah, if you can answer it now, feel free to. If you feel it needs a more substantial response, then.
Sorry, we're not going to answer that now, but it is policy related, so we're going to have to take that back with the relevant teams, but we'll come back with a response on that.
Okay, thank you. The question is posited.
Yes, thank you. There were several things. Sinusoidal cushions were used round the corner from my house in Edinburgh in 1995. So in terms of research, I feel it's been going on for quite a long time. The cost of delays. This has been going on. So phase 2, the cushions were consulted upon on Panelash Road and Green Lane. Consultation responses came back in summer of last year. Why are we only in initial discussions on the designs for the redesign of those? This does not convey a sense of urgency. Is there some sort of a resourcing issue which the council or the combined authority can address? I feel that I represent others in saying this is not being treated with an urgency that suggests that people want it to happen quickly. Thank you.
Okay, I think that was more a statement than a response, but thank you for the...
The cost question was a question.
The cost question,
yeah.
Okay. Is there an indication to respond to that now, or will you take that away, Melissa?
Sorry, what was the cost question? I missed that.
How much have these delays cost? We could have had this implemented. If we'd gone with the original scheme plan, it would have been implemented in 2024. We've done consultation last year during the summer on speed cushions on 2 roads. That consultation obviously had a cost. There was a design phase in advance of that. So the whole of the beginning of that year was spent in designing these things. It was then consulted upon informally, but also to the public. Those responses received, public responses were extremely favourable. Now, you have stated in the notes for this thing that there was some limited support for the scheme. So I'm not entirely sure where that grey area comes from, presumably from some of the other informal consultation that was done. This is all taking a lot of time and presumably has a cost implication.
Okay, thank you. I think the question is now clear, Melissa, if you want to...
It is, yeah. I haven't got the costs to hand, but it's something we can, we'll go back and find out. As I say, you know, we're trying to focus on the right things here, and this is one of the priorities that we're focusing on. So we will continue. That's the only thing I can say really in terms of you've got the officer commitment, and we're trying to resource this as best we can. But it's certainly got our priority going into the new year.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Schofield, I believe you have a proposal.
Sorry, yeah, thank you, Chair. If I may. I'd like to make a proposal that the committee actually takes it upon itself to write to Councillor Taylor and Carl Battersby to fast-track the active travel programme within Harrogate and Knaresborough, if I may. But then on top of that, if I also may request that we ask for a dedicated report to go to the next T's overview and scrutiny meeting with regards to this, please.
And would it go to the T's overview and scrutiny in relation to the Harrogate and Knaresborough area?
Please, yes, yeah.
Right. There are 2 proposals there in terms of representation and also overview and scrutiny. Councillor Aldred.
I'm happy to second both of those.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Harrison.
I just wanted to make the point that this committee repeatedly complains that things take too long and then ask officers to go off and do more reports that take their time. So I just want to make that point that we do this all the time, and I'm not sure I mean, I appreciate the spirit of what you're trying to do, but it all takes officer time away from what we've actually asked them to do.
Okay, point made. So a proposal has been made and seconded. Are you clear what that proposal is, Edward?
Worth getting some more information on the team report and exactly what that would cover. But I'm happy for just a quick verbal thing now, and then we can follow up later.
Okay, so the suggestion is that we take a vote on those proposals in principle and that we clarify exactly what that would consist of through liaison with the officer. So those in favour of that proposal and seconded decision, those in favour? Any against? And I think I counted everybody, so no abstentions. Oh, I'm sorry, John. Councillor Mann abstained. And Councillor Haslam? How did I miss that? You're right in front of me. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to suggest as quick a break as possible because we're going to go on till maybe 12:30-ish. And so comfort break. Please don't try and do extensive business in the corridors. And we'll be back. We will be progressing again at 1:45. Okay, thank you. We are live again now, so thank you for that, taking that short break. Item 7 on the agenda. Welcome to Mark. Familiar surroundings for you. Welcome back. And a particular moment in terms of we now have a Harrogate Town Council, as we're aware. We've had a Knaresborough Town Council for a while and a number of other parish councils around the patch. So we did think it was an opportune time to consider how these bodies relate.
On a quick point of order, might it be expedient for all those of us who need to declare an interest in being a member of a town council to put up our hands?
We could do, but those who are also members of Harrogate Town Council, please raise their hand, which includes Chris Aldred. Okay, and Knaresborough Town Council too. But yeah, I'm not sure. There's no pecuniary interest, but I mean, it's important in not necessarily in terms of protocol, but in terms of the overlap of interests and the need to not only understand what the fields of responsibility are, but how we can work together. So I take it in that spirit. PLDCR rolls off the tongue. It's a sort of a Christmas cracker. Guess the letters. But Mark, over to you. You've prepared us a presentation. We'll listen to you now. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. And yes, it is nice to be back in familiar surroundings and with a familiar committee, which I'm well used to working with. So thank you very much for the invite. I was particularly interested because when I first came round all the area committees, Harrogate and Knaresborough was the one that I didn't come round. I think there is a presentation that's available, so I didn't know if we wanted to start putting that on the screen, and I can go from there. I've put together a parish council orientated view of the service that we provide as a team, but it does cover a number of other things. So I say it does, or it doesn't. It doesn't appear to be working now. Now it's gone through. There we go. Thank you very much. Yes, so the Parish Liaison, Devolution, Community Rights. So the team that I manage consists of 3 areas, which is Parish Liaison with all our parish and town councils, Devolution, particularly of interest to parish and town councils, and also our Community Rights, which predominantly is of use to all our parish councils within North Yorkshire. So again, we support all our parish and town councils in undertaking sort of their ongoing responsibilities, and we try and facilitate that conversation with all we call them parish sector organisations, city councils, town councils, parish councils, and obviously parish meetings as well, with very smallest organisation type of parish sector organisations. So that's one element of the team's work. Devolution, so it's not just double devolution, there's devolution activities that are ongoing all the time within North Yorkshire, and also community rights, some of which are more known than others. Again, our team's responsible for managing the statutory responsibilities of North Yorkshire Council associated with those. It's all in the presentation which has been circulated previously, so I won't go too much into that. One thing I did want to emphasise, because I haven't had the opportunity to discuss this previously with this committee, is an apology if you had heard all this before, but it wasn't until we became a unity that we realised how many parish sector organisations we had. And I think there were various numbers, and there still are various numbers, but in terms of us with having contact, there's 572. That includes groups, so inclusive in there are numbers of groups and everything else. And to put that into context, that's twice as many as the next nearest principal authority with parish councils within its boundaries. And there's only 6 with over 200. So again, there's a considerable amount of parish sector organisations which North Yorkshire Council has that opportunity to have a relationship with. The one thing I'll always say is that it is an opportunity because everywhere, every part of North Yorkshire, there is a parish sector organisation available for discussion about issues relevant to that community, which is a significant opportunity for ourselves as this big corporate organisation. And the other thing we did realise, which does influence kind of a lot of things that we're doing at the moment, is that 160 of those parish sector organisers at parish meetings, which are very, very small, with a very small budget, if any, and where those parish councils do charge a precept, it's on average 50–60% lower than anywhere else comparable in the country. And when I mentioned that to another director that I was talking to recently, who, on a similar basis with parish liaison, that came as a big surprise, because their relationship with parish councils in their area was dependent on having some discussion around devolution, opportunities, resources, and we don't have that same opportunity to have those conversations on that same scale. So it's something that does influence the way we have an engagement with parish councils. So we're conscious that even if we say, as we have done previously, please will you help us out with this particular campaign, we print something out for us so that you can put it in your notice boards. They don't have that budget to print something out. So it's just thinking about the practical side of it when we're doing this. So these are the things that we've been working on since I came into post in terms of doing things like that. So there's some, I don't think the challenge is, it's just understanding the makeup of the parish councils that we have as in North Yorkshire, and developing our relationship accordingly. So, in terms of parish liaison, when I first came into post, one of the thing that we adopted as a council was the parish charter, and I'm hoping everybody's familiar with the parish charter. It sets out our commitments as a council that we will say we'll do. We will engage, we'll consult, we'll respond, all those kind of things which we will do to maintain that relationship with parish councils. And equally, there's an engagement there from parish councils, what they will do in the same relationship with us as North Yorkshire Council. Now, that was adopted in 2023. We review it every year. This year's review has just been completed. So that is reviewed with the YLCA, but their branch representatives representing all the areas within North Yorkshire. I know Councillor Les has just gone. He reiterates his support for that parish charter every year. In fact, we've just done the forward with him, and he maintains that top-level commitment for the parish charter across all of North Yorkshire Council and to the parish sector. So, for me, parish liaison for my team is underpinned by the parish charter. That's what it means to me, the parish charter. Everything that we've said in there, it's how we as an organisation are engaging with the parish councils. And so when I first came into post and the team started to become in post, and just to be clear, we have 4 members of the team, including in addition to myself, 2 predominantly with community rights and 2 for parish liaison. So we aren't a big team. So one of the big things that when we came to post was the fact that there was a lot of unmet demand where parish councils felt there's been no one to talk to for all this time, didn't know who to go to, a big new organisation, not knowing the contact points. We've lost all our previous contacts, all those particular issues. So our first piece of work was to get a single point of contact. So we provided that for across North Yorkshire, and that's been very, very, very successful and well used. So it gives that single email address for all parish and town councils, parish sector any parish sector organisation to contact us, and that is used numerous times per day, and we facilitate those conversations, and we guarantee to get a response within a couple of days, so that we're not answering the queries on behalf of the services, we're facilitating that conversation with the right people and having that oversight to see if there has been a response received. So that just gives a bit more surety to the parish sector that we are making sure that they can have the right contact at the right time. We also go and have drop-in sessions and formal meetings across the whole of North Yorkshire. So we're in our 2nd year of doing that now. I think the one in Harrogate, Knaresborough took place in 1st of October in Arkindale. And so we've had the drop-in session and we've had the meeting for this area at the moment. And I was literally at Scarborough last night till 9 o'clock in the formal meeting for the Scarborough area as well. So they're ongoing at the moment. And another thing we've introduced is every month we send out a parish update, which includes all things that are important to parish councils, which we've developed a relationship across services that if it needs to be circulated, do it in one publication to parish councils at one time. So the last Wednesday of every month, we do a regular circulation to parish councils with an update, because the criticism we had as a council is that every service is sending us something every day. We get hundreds of emails, and you'll get a town clerk in, a little small town council with very small population, getting hundreds of emails, and they work 2 hours a week, and they can't possibly respond to any of them. So we're trying to make that process a little bit easier. We're working with services to cut down on the communications. We'll do it through one update, and to make it more targeted, we will send out information on behalf of services to that one email address so that parish and town councils know it's specific to them, rather than just a generalistic one which we send out to everybody. So again, it's helping parish and town councils to do that. In addition to that, we have developed, just so that we can have a regular conversation, we have a representative panel of 58 parish and town councils, which it's like a panel just to say, we've got a couple of ideas, what do you think, just on a regular basis, and any parish council will be a member of that. We've just made that open, and there's an invite there open to every parish council to actually join that at all. So just to give some facts and figures, since we started, we've had at least 230 queries via our email inbox. Now that's interesting because that's from the parish liaison inbox. However, I was just thinking today, in the last 2 days, what have I dealt with? So I've dealt with firing of cannons, Christmas lights, park benches, public conveniences, whalebones, and a neighbourhood plan, and that's just in one day. That's 5 different things for five different councils. Just things which are just oddities. But again, it's that specific queries which are usually complicated, involving 2 or 3 more queries, but that's an ongoing thing. We've had 13 of the parish drop-in sessions and surgeries. We've published 14 of the monthly updates. We've done 6 surveys. We even attend town council meetings, parish council meetings. We've done 7. We do ask that we're not invited to all of parish and town council meetings because it's an impossibility. But if there are particular issues which they're concerned, we will go out and meet face to face. That's one thing we've said as a team. We didn't want to be the faceless parish liaison service at North Yorkshire. We'll go out and meet. So we work out of different offices, work around the county on a regular basis. So on a conservative estimate that we can monitor this, we've done over 400 queries with particularly that have been raised with us. And things we're developing this year, we're upping that opportunity for specific surgeries on a weekly on a monthly basis, specific times where parish councils just book in and have a chat if they've got a particular issue that's current there. And also we're developing a new parish website. It's not in addition to the council website, it's picking out those areas that are particularly not difficult, but they're quite hard to find on our website, and making it's been a requirement of parish clerks to cut down on time, putting things in one place, the links to our website in one place. It's a one-stop shop for them to go and get everything, for want of a better word. And that's been developed with parish council as well, and that'll be available early in the new year. And relating it to the area committee, the Harrogate Knaresborough committee is the one with the fewest number of parish councils within its area, with 17. It wasn't until I looked at this that I knew it was the smallest, but I didn't know how few they had. And just in comparison, I think Scarborough, just less than 50, Selby and Ainsty between 50 and 100, Skipton Ripon 101 to 250, and Richmond and Thirsk and Malton between 150 to 200 within their areas. So again, there's a difference in sort of the amount of parish and town councils within the area constituency boundaries. And I was also looking at another piece of work that for our North Yorkshire councillors, how many parish councils are within their own ward boundaries. And I was thinking, I think there's, just at the top of my head, there's 41 with over 6 in their areas. I think there's 1 with over 31 and 3 with over 15 to 20, probably a bit more than that. No, it's 3 with over 31, and then there's 1 with excessive amount. So even for individual North Yorkshire councillors to enable them to even have a relationship with parish and town council, it's very difficult because of the amount of councils that we have. So again, the service is there for our North Yorkshire councillor members to support their parish council as well, and I do. And in fact, that some of the parish council meetings we go to are as a result of the North Yorkshire councillor going and emphasising our service, so we're invited to the next meeting to go and do that. So again, that's parish liaison in general. But the one thing I do say is, and I said this last night, that one of my key roles that I see is that whenever I'm in conversation with services about things, it's advocating on behalf of parish and town councils to make sure that their considerations are taken into account. Practical examples at the moment are when we're looking at changes to services and it might have an impact on parish and town councils, look at the time in the year you're doing it, because the precepts are being set at the same time we're doing our budget setting. And it's been particularly appropriate in the Scarborough area because we're looking at existing agreements that had been historically in place from the Scarborough Town Council. So it's working in those timescales to make sure that it fits in with the precepting side of it with the town and parish council. Equally, a small change in a service, which is potentially a small service, that's not going to make a big, we're saving money across the, which isn't necessarily a big change, but for a small town and parish council, it's a massive change. And it's only a small example, but I was quoting an example where we changed the number of times we sprayed, weed control, the weed killer in a certain area. And we changed it from 6 times to 2 times. But that had a detrimental effect on the area, which the town council would want to have probably precepted for to enable us to keep at the same level of service. But we didn't, we just did it. And they didn't have the timescale to precept to enable them to put the money in place to actually do it. So that's just a very practical example in terms of the way we do it. And of course, if you're doing small cuts across a number of different services, which we perceive as not being very, doesn't have a massive impact, if we do it across a number of services, the impact on an individual parish council with all those cuts in one area or potential service changes has a big impact. So they're the kind of messages that I discuss with services on a regular basis. So I am involved in those discussions and I do bring those things up. So another element of our work is devolution. I think some of the high-profile devolution is obviously double devolution, which in this area would be probably the Knaresborough market, and I know colleagues that. I'm just thinking of the Harrogate, Harrogate Knaresborough area, the double devolution deal, which is more is the one that's been taken forward at the moment, which is Knaresborough market. But they're the double devolution pilots, which have been ongoing for the last 2 years, with various levels of success. There's been various difficulties with them, with the move over to the new unitary, with information, equally with the ability of the town councils to actually develop those proposals as well. So there's lessons to be learned from that. And working from that, we are working on a devolution framework, because devolution is not just double devolution. We are working very much with a number of town and parish councils about other devolution proposals, which aren't double devolution. It could be community asset transfers, service transfers, and they sound big proposals, but they're not. It can be just a small piece of ground with a long-term lease. It can be looking at benches within the area. It's not massive things. So one thing I've said all along is if there's any consideration as a parish and town council about any devolution discussions about anything, any size, please come and have a chat. So again, we're developing devolution framework to cover those issues. And again, we're still looking at those carryover arrangements which previous district and borough councils had that we have to look at to ensure consistency across the whole of North Yorkshire. So I'll just go back to the Scarborough scenario where we've been looking at agreements that had historically been in place there as well. So again, we've got a website there, an email address there for those queries. My other side of the team is community rights. I've thrown that in because it's predominantly used by parish councils in terms of assets, community value and nominating assets in the area. I'll always promote that as a way to preserve those assets that are important to the community. It's important for you developing a neighbourhood plan. It's important to make sure that you have the opportunity to preserve and keep those assets which are important. And I always encourage them to do that when it's being well used rather than when it's closed or in the process of being sold. So again, But I'm just emphasising that in the English Devolution Community Empowerment Bill, that changes to community right to buy. So there's added protection in there, which increases potentially, in the first instance, protection for probably 12 months, but there is a required negotiation and discussion about a realistic sale within that process. The details will be coming out. Again, that's particularly of interest to parish and town councils because they're predominantly, the majority of our nominations come from them. And I think just from conversations I'm having at the moment, it will be significant in the future, and that's going to be coming in probably April next year, hopefully. And then the other thing I'm just highlighting really for yourselves, it's not parish council really, it's in the English Devolution Community Empowerment Bill is the effective neighbourhood governance. There is scope in the bill for the Secretary of State to direct what neighbourhood governance would mean for a principal authority. So other areas are looking at it in terms of similar structures to area committees. So they're going to prescribe in the legislation what those will be. And I originally thought it was going to be for those going through devolution at the moment, but it will be for all local authorities. So again, that's still to be scoped out and agreed. But I was in a meeting with MHCLG and discussing that, and they're trying to establish whether that's an area, a defined area, defined themes, defined partner organisations who partner these bodies. But again, there is scope in there to do that, and there will be something coming out which might impact the way this North Yorkshire have structured neighbourhood governance arrangements, which will impact potentially this committee. And I think that's it. If there's any questions.
Great, thank you very much, Mark. And I think what you provided there is a backcloth for the work of this committee in the context of localism and the likes, and knowing what services are provided, but also knowing not to step on toes, if that's the right language, or knowing that there's a route for parish councils. And it is amazing how many there are out there. Clearly in Harrogate and Knaresborough area, we're dominated by 2 town councils, and particularly with Harrogate Town Council coming on board, and the relationship in terms of things like the neighbourhood plan being developed, now being the responsibility of the town council. So useful backcloth for our working, and potentially an area that we might want to consider. And I do think your last point in terms of community rights, the Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill may well feed significantly into the way in which North Yorkshire currently has designed its being local sort of mantra. So thank you very much for that contribution. Just wonder whether there are any questions. Councillor Walker, Councillor Mann.
So in terms of double devolution, obviously, Knaresborough is leading the charge yet again. It has been a very... well, I want to find out about this cannon. I want one for the castle now. Now you've told me...
Is it ecclesiastical cannon? Can we clarify that? It's not a vicar. It's not ecclesiastical.
But seriously, I think there is things we need to learn from that. I think it's where we do that evaluation, whether it needs to go to committee. And it's just trying to understand from yourselves, are there any plans to do that, or do we need to try and put a recommendation that it goes to a committee? I think, from my point of view, is it value for money, lessons learned, things that have gone really well, but actually things that haven't gone so well. I'm not going to dwell on it all because I would get very cross. There is an awful lot of lessons to learn from my experience in the town council. And I just wonder where we are with that, and whether we need to make a recommendation that it does go to a committee, that there is a proper review of that process to make sure it works for the council.
For me, I totally understand the comments that you're making. I think there is a process of review for all the double devolution. I think the way that we first engage with the process, what the expectations from ourselves and for parish and town councils, there are absolutely lessons to be learned. When I said there was a devolution framework to be come out of the work around all devolution proposals, I think that will encompass that. So for those town councils that were involved in the devolution process, I will be coming to them to actually get their views and suggest improvements going forward. So there's an inbuilt process to actually do that, to come out with the devolution framework. So I don't think there's a requirement to actually specify anything, because I'll be doing that, and if I don't do it, you can come back to me.
It's key learning that there are two devolution processes going on, and one can teach the other, so that's useful. Councillor Mann.
Well, it was great to hear about the work of your team and yourself, Mark, on parish councils. I mean, if we think back 2 or 3 years when we all amalgamated into one council, the boroughs, the districts and the county, one of the key selling points of that reorganisation was the fact that we would try to be one of the most local big councils ever, and the work of your team obviously is key to all this, so it's great to hear about it. And I think the way we sold it to the parish councils wasn't that we would have your team and help them and try to bring them in and try to shrink the county in terms of communication. So I think the work of your team is vital in that. And I was very interested to hear about the progress we're making on devolution as well. I do think that's very exciting. In panel, for example, we've got one of the bigger councils. We haven't yet, I attend that parish council as a, but we haven't yet discussed devolution. So I just wondered if we could bang the drum a bit for that with the parish councils, perhaps send out an email to them all stressing the benefits, because I do think it does have great benefits for local communities and parish councils. So I think it's something that we should focus on, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. It's at every meeting that I go to, I not give the same presentation, but I emphasise the benefits of devolution. And I say it's not just a big, because sometimes it's off-putting to think it's just this big property owned by the North Yorkshire Council that you might want to take, look at the building a business case costing thousands of pounds to actually do. It can be the smallest possible thing. And funnily enough, you mentioned panel. We're looking at panel benches, which I call it's devolution. So we're looking at that at the moment.
Absolutely.
So again, there is an ongoing discussion, and I'm prompting that across a number of different areas. And the other thing I'm trying to engage with, it's not just a one-off opportunity for, I don't know, an individual town and parish council. It's if we've done a devolution agreement about benches in an area, that will be a standard that we could actually roll out and offer to all parish councils on the basis of that, not just a one-off here and a one-off there. Going back to my original point about the agreements, it's got to be consistent across the whole of North Yorkshire. So whatever we develop, which is kind of where we're trying to get that standard approach, so as if it's available in one area, we've got to actually take it into context and see that it's available to all parish and town councils. But again, it's got to be in relation to their ability in terms of the resources, the size, and the capability to be able to carry that on and have a sensible conversation about the way we look at that.
Great. I'll take just 2 more questions or comments from Councillor Goslow and Councillor Haslam, and then we'll move on.
Thank you. In terms of the comments you made about trying to get an understanding and what you're doing and getting an understanding of the timings of parish and town councils, I appreciate that, and I wonder whether more could be done to support town and parish councils to be able to give proper feedback to consultations on new policies. And just thinking of the Section 19 flooding report we had at the last meeting, which was given in an informal presentation to Knaresborough Town Council, but not in enough time to allow them to have a formal council meeting to then give back the view of the council in order to come to our area committee to then feed back to executive. And I think that's important. I would like to be able to facilitate the town and parish councils to be able to join these meetings as how I see it should happen, to have their voice heard and to then steer our discussion and recommendations.
Can I respond to that? I totally agree in terms of the timescales. I mean, the thing in the parish charter, it gives a timescale for consultations, unless there are other specific reasons which should be specified at the time of consultation. So for me, our ideal timescale is 12 weeks, and that's what we should be working to. And I'm not saying we're perfect as North Yorkshire Council. We do work to the best we can in terms of the timescales, but I'm working very much and getting the message out that parish councils can't just give an opinion within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It has to be as if you were going to a committee. It has to be, and it can be even more time consuming than that, because not every town council meets every month. They could meet every 2 months, every 3 months. So again, it's got to be, if we're engaging with parish and town and want their views, and they're important views that we need that input to, we've got to give them the right timescale to actually input that. So I totally agree, and I am working very much on that basis. So I am getting the right traction within North Yorkshire to be able to do that, and services that I work with actually do that. But it's a big machine that we're going through, and sometimes there are absolutely service and legislative timescales that we have to meet, and sometimes we can't do that, of which we should be explaining that at the time, though. That's the thing.
Great. And finally, Councillor Mann, could you pop your mic off? Sorry. Thank you.
I'll be very brief. Mark, you mentioned Christmas lights. I'm getting a lot of conversations from parish councils who are very upset about parish lights, including Starbeck, which is not a parish council. And I just thought I'd just add to your list. And if you could actually find out what the root cause of this is, because there's a lot of people who are upset about their Christmas decorations at the moment.
Can you say, if there are specific queries, if you just send them to me, and I'll have a look in, because when I say Christmas lights, it's literally in one area that I'm looking at in terms of getting it. So because I think there are different issues in different previous areas. So if there's something specific, if you could drop me a line so that I know, that would be great, and then I can follow that up.
It's to do with North Yorkshire changing or modifying the rules on connecting to electricity, I believe, and it's quite widespread across North Yorkshire.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. I think that's opened up a conversation, and thank you, Mark, for coming. And we have a combined interest in making sure that town and parish councils are part of how we operate in North Yorkshire. Moving on to item 8, and Martin and Phil, it's been long overdue, not only because it's been a long morning of meetings, but also because we've not properly, confession, no blame anywhere, engaged with you as the Chamber and other business organisations. Perhaps just sort of, we've given you the opportunity to just give a verbal. I think you might have a couple of slides.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent. So we'll take those now. And again, hopefully this is just an introduction to a conversation that we need to have on an ongoing basis. So thank you both.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's great to be able to present. I think the last time I was here was way back about COVID, just must be 2 or 3 years ago when we were talking about the Gateway. But great to be here for this topic. So what we've done is we've picked out the top 5 that the Chamber would like, or that our members would like to see move forward with the town improvement plan that I think Harrogate Council are moving forward with as well. So if we could, that's the one, sorry about the size of it. And there is just a slide for each of these. We'd love to, as has been discussed in the improvement plan, that we try to leverage more the spa heritage of the town. It's something the town doesn't, that's the town's missing, and we are simply failing to monetize that to bring visitors into the town. Another point is utilising a lot of the empty buildings, a lot of the upper floors, again, in the town plan, the proposal, trying to improve legislation or the planning routine, planning methods through the county so that people can actually access and convert upper floors to residential. Transport, reliability, the perpetual conversation about park and ride, then the sustainable construction, something that really we want to be known for something that's going to change the environment. We heard about all of that this morning, and making sure that we could become a world-class, potentially, centre for how to retrofit historic buildings. And then finally, making the most of our quarters that I know the bid are already working on, but those are only the quarters within the very town centre. So whether we should be looking at those quarters to extend beyond the bid district so that it can enhance Coldbath Road retail area, Kings Road, which aren't within the bid district. And trying to build a rhythm to our events. So the events throughout the town and throughout the whole area. Sometimes we don't find out about them until quite late. So the Christmas market, I know that the B&Bs were getting phone calls from their repeat clients back as far as June saying, we've booked coming December. We're looking forward to the Christmas market. And up until maybe 6 weeks ago, some of the B&Bs just couldn't even find it on the North Yorkshire website. So we'd like to be able to enhance our communications around the events year on year so that we can get those repeat clients coming into hospitality every year so that it becomes, they make the booking for next year because it was so good when they've been to last year's event. So if we could just have a look at the first slide. Oh God, I really should have used a bigger typeface, sorry. We'll, if we can, we're able to get them circulated later if it's relevant. So the document originally states that possibly a proposal for stronger interpretation, better trails around the town, and trying to potentially pie in the sky the British Spa Museum. None of the other spa towns have got it. Why isn't there one? Why isn't it here? Whether it's extending the pump rooms or doing something with the West Park Centre or something completely different. And trying to bring a trail, I think this appears elsewhere, trying to bring through a spa tour which would connect the Royal Baths, pump rooms, Valley Gardens, Crescent Gardens, and trying to bring tourists through in a Harry-style walking tour, but something that actually gets people to connect through the whole town. And this would enhance the dwell time of people. It draws people through the whole town. They get to see the different retail sections, and something that probably isn't going to be touched on today, but the changes that have been made to parking in Harrogate with the removal of the pay on exit is going to start to be the dwell time of people being forced to leave the town after 3 hours rather than being able to park up and relax and then leave at the end of the day is something that we would need to look at to try and recover the dwell time of shoppers so that they can enjoy the restaurants as well. Now, the neighbourhood heritage, the heritage-led placemaking with the public realm, adaptive reuse of vacant heritage buildings, and try to tie the whole of the identity of any applications in the town centre back to the spa heritage. And if we were able to pilot a assigned promenade route that connects the green spaces, something like that. The floral trail seems to have fallen into disrepair. I think if you asked even the most floral local, they would struggle to find the floral trail signs these days, whether that trail needs recreating, and whether we have other routes that connect all our green spaces for people to. We talk about mental health and well-being, how green space is good for the mind. So that's something that we would try to enhance. So can we flick on to the next one? So this is trying to fast track. Oh no, yes, sorry, that's me not moving my own on. Trying to fast track the upper floor redevelopments so that if developers are coming in, that there isn't too much red tape to enhance the upper floor conversions. And coupled to that, although not something that I suspect any of us can do anything about, the dreadful state of repair of some of the upper floors in town. We all come down Parliament Street. I suspect there can't be anyone in the room that's not appalled by the white plastic wrapping the broken bay window of an old nightclub. And that's some people's first impressions, whether they're coming in down Ripon Road and looking up Parliament Street or coming down Parliament Street itself. Just doesn't give the town the appeal that we want people to take home from it. Oh yeah, we had a lovely time, we went to Betty's, buildings are a bit tired, and people don't come back. And we've been looking possibly to assist North Yorkshire to assist with fire routes so that developers that are looking to help to redevelop the upper floors, possibly working with them to make sure that fire exits are already defined, as long as they're not redeveloping the building too much. I know that that's been some concern within the Debenhams development, that it's because there are no external fire exits, so the conversion to residential, they will have to put external fire exits in, I suspect. So that'll be some changes. And then one final point was whether there is a local organisation, whether it's the Harrogate Council or North Yorkshire, that is a space finder for developers coming into the town, almost as a concierge service, so that if you've got developers redeveloping, small businesses wanting to come into the town, that there's a single point of contact, so that there's a business wanting to relocate out of London, right, we need a space for 20, 30 offices, 20, 30 desks, something like that, that there is a central point of contact that's well marketed, so that people go onto Facebook and say, where can I work? Where is the best office space? Almost a yellow pages for newly developed or newly available workspace. So that would be something that could be quite a quick win. And then next one is transport. So trying to improve the reliability of the public transport. So I don't know how many here travel by bus. It's not something I've done in a while, but I know that Phil utilises it very much. And we seem to have inherited the London ghost bus scenario, where the Transdev app tells you there's a bus at the stop before you, and it never arrives. So what can we do to hold Transdev to account because I believe North Yorkshire fund them to some extent with the electrification of the buses. How do we make sure that what we're wanting or what we require as a service is actually there? Because ghost buses just don't help anyone at all. And we do keep talking about, we've probably 20 years plus, many missed opportunities, introducing a park and ride, probably out at Butterside Bath, so that it would service the Bradford, Leeds and York transport into the town. You would then have the facility to run probably minibuses, hopper coach, chauffeur coach style buses up to Cardell Park and the other business parks. And at the same time, again, if it was out at Butterside Bar, I know it's been talked about that we haven't got room to put a bus lane in, but we've got a railway running right past it. So this way we can simply help people get into the town, just as you've got, 4, 5, 6 park and rides going around York. And it's, York has, and Leeds has entirely pay on exit parking. York has the park and ride schemes, both of which are so much easier to navigate than getting stuck at the Kestrel and waiting half an hour to get to the Empress. So we need to try and offer people the ability to either drive as far as Butterside Bar, as an example, cycle into town, get the train in, do whatever. And that would then open up, hopefully remove some of the cars from the central town, enhance the experience, and make it a pleasant place to move around. The other item, and this is something I remember from my childhood, the chauffeur coaches and the hopper buses that used to run around the town centre. Used to be able to service the Saints down Wayside, and they were all over through Bilton, and you didn't have a 52-seater trying to squeeze down between parked cars down Bilton Lane. And if we're able to enhance the journey into the town, you enhance the retail experience, the time people will stay there. So that's, again, big ask, but how do we get people into town and get them to stay longer without just feeling exhausted by the time they get there. Then next one is retrofit, possibly making us a regional hub for the experience, work with the local college. We've got both Harrogate Tech and their relationship into Leeds. We've got the building college in Leeds, possibly build a rapport with them, so that we've got so many buildings that either are beautiful, were beautiful, are not being developed to their utmost. We want to make a difference to the climate. The only way with our properties would be retrofitting environmental materials into them, better glazing. I know that you can put, there are companies that would provide glazing for sash windows, for double glazing, whether it's monoblock or whatever. So we've got huge opportunities there to liaise with local manufacturers, local colleges, and become a training centre potentially with the building college, so that we can just reduce our output, carbon dioxide, and make it a healthier place, which ties back to the original first one of being a spa town, being a healthy place to be. And then finally, we've got trying to enhance and connect the quarters, extending people's visit to just the town centre, bringing visitors into the town to extend them out into, as I said before, Colbath Road and Kings Road, as well as there are other areas with great shopping. So we want to bring people into the town because we are a visitor town. That's the reason that Harrogate exists. So we want people in town so that the shops are busier, we employ more people, we generate more revenue for the town, and we become, you speak to people that have moved into the area and they're noticing that the town has become more tired even in the last 12 months. Speaking to even officers in North Yorkshire, they've been visiting the town for their role as devolutions happened, and they are noticing a shift that public realm is starting to feel quite tired, and we just need a bit of help enhancing the town. BID do a fabulous job, but Victoria Avenue, we spent £1 million and they still used the old upright reflectors. We've still got the signage there for the LTN. They've removed the safety barrier around the central island at the zebra crossing for the children's safety outside the library. So there are things that we want to do just to, horrible word, beautify the place, but enhance it so that Harrogate can be what it should be as the ultimate visitor centre. And this brings me back to the rhythm of the events, trying to make sure that we possibly try to work with the convention centre so that if they've got events, business conferences that are running Thursday and Friday, that there are packages available, possibly through an accommodation bid deal, that we encourage people that have come to the conference to extend by a day, bring their partners into the town, and don't just go home on a Friday or a Thursday, but stay, take a day off work, come and enjoy Harrogate. So if we were able to produce these events, or just the schedule that we market the international festivals, all the bid events through the visitors to the conference centre, the convention centre, we can try and extend people's stays in the town by an extra day. You imagine the 2,000 nurses or the greenkeepers or potato growers, I think, last month. So we've got a huge variety of visitors coming into the town that, what are we doing to make them stay? Just get an extra night out of them because, again, I was speaking to Accommodate Harrogate, the B&B guest house group on Tuesday, and they open their bookings when they know there are events on. Convention centre's not that great at sharing when they're going to be busy, so I've started doing that for them. And they know they get the overflow from the hotels, but there's still an important number of beds that are needed to allow us to keep the convention centre operational. No one brings a large convention to town if Harrogate says we've only got 80% beds for the number of people coming in, and people then have to go out of town for their hotel. It just doesn't help us as an economy. So that's a flying top 5 from the town plan, just trying to help hospitality, visitor attraction, retailers, and construction all in one.
Yep. And I don't think there's very much in there that we wouldn't be wholly supportive of, and it's good to have it from the horse's mouth, so to say.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the interesting things at the moment, obviously, is around the town investment plan, the neighbourhood plan for Harrogate Town Council getting sort of underway. So just wondering in that context whether there are, any comments or observations. Councillor Schofield.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, would it be possible, Martin, to have a copy of those slides sent to everybody, please? Because I think it's a great piece of work.
Absolutely.
I really do, and something I think everybody in here would love to support. One thing I brought up before, and Martin's quite right, really, about the communication between some of the organisations that pertain to being so important to Harrogate. So I'm just going to name 3, which is the Harrogate Theatre, the Convention Centre and the International Festivals, none of which seem to communicate between each other. So therefore, would it be wise for us to ask them to come in at some point in time so we can discuss how they actually communicate with each other to help the local town centre economy? Because I know they're all separate entities, which is great. However, they all have the overriding arch of looking at providing things for Harrogate. So could we have them in at some point to maybe address how they communicate with each other, with ourselves, and with the local business communities to help the business communities? Because I do think over the years, Harrogate business has been overlooked somewhat or not looked after properly. Hence, you can see how the town centre is now looking as poor as it now is. And as I brought up about the Gateway before, about how there was no impact report put forward about the business impact report, we don't look at business properly, in my opinion, in Harrogate. So I would just like to have those 3 in here at some point to discuss with them how, and it would help them as well. I know they've always tended to work, not fractious, but they haven't worked in harmony over the years. And I think it would be great to try and get them together to work in harmony, which would enhance Harrogate, which would enhance the business side and enhance the visitor experience.
Okay. Any response there, Martin? Phil? Phil.
Yeah, just on that collaboration, I suppose that's what you're referring to in terms of communication. One of the things that we have sought to improve in and increase is the collaboration between different organisations with ourselves. So I know, Peter, we've met and talked about how we can sort of work more in supporting the work being done in Knaresborough as well as work being done in Harrogate. And I think if we're going to get anything done, unless we collaborate, it's going to be, like we've said earlier this morning, about how elongated things become and sometimes drop off the edge of a cliff and disappear, which we don't want for our towns and our county. So the collaboration side is something that we felt was very strongly one of our values, is to build those bridges and talk more with other organisations and see how we can support them as well as how we can work together to achieve what's right for our towns in the county.
Great, thank you. Councillor Mann.
Sorry.
I'd just like to support what my colleague has said about the importance of working closely with business. I mean, we have done in the past, but I think we need to build on that and consult with them even more. And I agree with the comments of colleagues that the town is super, but in part it does look a little bit tired in some streets, and I think we could assist in that. I mean, I was walking through the other day and just noticing things like the benches, the litter bins, the street furniture, all of which could benefit from just a bit of a clean, really, a bit of TLC. And I think just simple things like that. I don't know, perhaps we could discuss it as part of the work programme of this committee. And as you say, we've got the neighbourhood plan. I think the neighbourhood plan will help, and the work of the town council. That's another very important area. So just to support my colleague and our speakers, I fully agree with what they say.
Good. Any other, Councillor Haslam?
I think if we're talking about collaboration, then I think perhaps the first organisation you bring in here is the parish council, the town council of Harrogate, and then you can work out, because I think how we work with both Knaresborough and the Harrogate town councils is absolutely critical, and that's the start point. And then, because the other thing is, one of the things that I watch continuously across North Yorkshire is the number of people that continually reinvent the wheel. It's a little pointless. If we don't want to be duplicating work, so we can actually turn around and say, look, we're pulling this together. This is how you can help us, and this is how we can help you. And I just think that would be a great starting point, I think, to understand the ambition of the town council and how it fits in relation with this. And that's both town councils before
it's a multi-tiered process, isn't it?
Before my Knaresborough colleagues shout at me.
Yes.
Loudly.
Councillor Schofield, you can have a brief comeback.
Sorry, yeah, thank you. And one other point would be that North Yorkshire has to acknowledge that, along with Scarborough, Harrogate is probably the main financial contributor to North Yorkshire. Therefore, a successful Harrogate will help a successful North Yorkshire in many different ways, and Knaresborough, of course. So I do think we need to help the businesses and Harrogate Town Centre as much as possible. And you're right, collaboration and communication, that is key across all levels, whether it be the Harrogate Town Council, whether it be Knaresborough Town Council, the ACC and North Yorkshire, and all of the stakeholders who contribute.
Okay, so I think we've put a marker down. I am conscious of time because, and this is the start of a conversation. I'm going to suggest that the mid-cycle briefing, which hopefully will include one or two others in the light of recent changes in terms of party groups, etc. We take this into that conversation in order to make sure that it features in this area committee, but clearly it needs to sort of link in with plans in both town councils and other areas. I am also aware that the North Yorkshire sort of economic development teams probably only in the last 6-9 months have been fully staffed and engaged and sort of getting under speed. So I think there is an opportunity here to fulfil some of our delegated responsibilities in terms of economic development. So I'm glad we've made a start this morning, and we will build on it over time. So our agenda, we have agenda item 9, which is Waste and Streets Scene Performance Update, which is a written report and to be noted. So I'm not going to take any comments there. If people do have comments, then obviously we can feed them into that development process in the mid-cycle reviews, so get in contact with either myself or Hannah. The committee work programme, there are just a couple of items there just to note. Just find the right page. So on page 74 of our papers, there are highlighted notes on progress. Just highlight them there if there's any comments or questions. Okay. Forthcoming meetings and the opportunities to discuss various items, again, that's there, and we'll take that into the mid-cycle review briefings. Councillor Costello.
Is it the right time to make a couple of proposals as to items for forthcoming?
Yes.
Two things in with regards to Melissa's update with on the active travel team being implemented in the new year. I understand under Alan McVeigh's management. Could we please see whether they could be invited to a meeting when they're formed? And then also in relation to our last meeting with with regards to the Section 19 report and the recommendations we placed, there was little detail in the decision note on the executive member for environment's decisions himself on further work. Could we invite him to give us more information or attend a meeting to explain further?
Okay. We will add those both to the agenda. Yep. Other? Okay. Working groups. There has been a meeting of the Station Gateway Working Group. Does the convener of that, Councillor Aldred, do you want to say anything at all?
I don't think they actually has since our last meeting. No,
Okay.
not an actual.
Right, I've got a note here, 17th of September, but that's a long time ago, is it?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so nothing to add there.
Nothing other than obviously there has been an executive decision with the TP, with the traffic regulation orders going ahead. So work should start in January, I understand. And we did say in that last group meeting, we will start meeting regularly, and communication with businesses, particularly in the town, is absolutely vital. And I personally am determined to stay on top of that. So we as soon as the work starts, we'll kick back.
You've got the right people in the room to hear that, so good. The Housing Liaison Working Group, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but it did have an informal meeting earlier this week, I believe. Anything to note from those present? There was a note circulated.
Can I just comment? I thought that was a really, really excellent meeting, and we covered a lot of ground in a short time there. So if anybody hasn't seen the notes of that meeting, they're well worth seeing. And I think we're getting a glossary at some time in the immediate future to add to those notes.
Yeah, I think there's a request to make the language inclusive, which I'm fully supportive of. So we'll follow that through in the group meetings. And the climate change met on the 3rd of November. Councillor Haslam has left. I don't know, is there any comment on that?
That was a presentation from Yorkshire Water to the group.
Okay, so that is noted, and working groups clearly complement and add value to our work as an area committee. The last thing to say then is date of the next meeting, I believe, unless there's any other. No, that's excellent. Thursday, the 26th of March at 10 a.m. So thank you for your perseverance this morning. I think our business was important and will stand us in good stead in the future. Thank you all very much. The meeting is closed.